Hello and welcome back to my Healing Journeys channel. As I said in my last update, I do want to do my updates more often, and a lot has been happening for me in April. It's actually been a very intense month of healing. There's always these cycles, and back in March I did family constellations work, which I think I mentioned in my last video. You can watch that one if you want to know more about what that is. But I did one in a group to help me clear my creative block, which was not allowing me to do my writing, and it really worked, and I was writing a lot in March, and then April came, and I just had this message that it was time to really heal a lot of very deep issues. And the thing that's been different this time is that generally in the past I would have an issue, and then there would be one negative emotion associated that I had to work through, and maybe a few different origins of the issue. But this time it's like there were two things that were different. One was that, for example, when I was working on shame, which I haven't worked a lot on in the past, shame is very hidden, and you may not be aware that you're experiencing shame. But once it came up, everything would trigger my shame, and also I had to clear the shame and all these different origins of it in my life. And the other thing that happened was that the negative emotions would shift so many times in a day, for example, which never happened to me before, where I would feel shame, and then I would experience forgiveness and acceptance, and then I would go into grief, just grieving for my own pain from this shame. So it would go shame and grief and shame and grief, and also whenever I would resolve an issue or an emotion, or like a group like that, going back and forth, then I would go into fear. So it'd be like shame, grief, fear, anger, fear. And fear is really an emotion that's associated with the future and going for what you want to be doing in your life and developing. Every time you want to kind of step up what you're doing, there's a bit of maybe a new thing you have to learn to develop, and that brings fear. These are not conscious things often, but it happens. So then you think, so for me recently, there was this big, really big shift, and it had to do with guilt. And guilt is something that was kind of put on me very young, and I was always feeling responsible for others' happiness, and it was just like a very heavy thing. Actually, for a while I realized I was carrying this heavy burden, but I didn't know the source of it. And then finally realized it was guilt. And somehow just saying some affirmations to myself of, I'm not responsible for other people's happiness, I'm only responsible for my happiness, I can be light and joyful and playful, it shifted this guilt actually very quickly, but I think it's because I had been doing so much work. And I was in the shower where I often shift things, and I just started getting these crazy intuitive downloads about all these things that I was supposed to do. And it was literally the most connected I've been to my intuition in my entire life. Like it was intense. That whole day I was just so inspired, and I was making plans with everybody, and because I'm getting into this stage where I'm supposed to be doing a lot of collaborative work with others in my healing work, and I just felt amazing, and I knew that I was supposed to be at the beach and swim and ride, and I should do this every day. And it was like, and when you go into such a positive place and you think, okay, that's it, I've I've reached enlightenment and it's going to be great from now on. No, it wasn't. The next day was just hell. The next day, all this fear came, all this criticism and judgment, this voice again from my childhood was just relentless. I was in pain. I had no idea what to do. And what I realized is that when we unblock big things, then we become much more aware of our intuition, but we also become much more aware of the negative ego voices. So the intuition was amazing, but the negative, like, protective ego strategies were just as intense. And I wasn't used to that. And I think the thing is that they were always there, but I just didn't hear them as much. I wasn't aware of them as much. So suddenly I was completely aware. Honestly, just couldn't do anything that day. The next day, somehow, I don't usually watch any videos in the morning, but I was looking at my notifications and there was some relaxing ASMR video. I actually don't. I create ASMR videos, but I don't usually watch them unless I'm really struggling in the middle of the night and can't sleep. But this video, for some reason, I started watching it. And literally it was just that she was speaking very slowly, and I got so relaxed. And even though I had already been starting to feel, again, agitated from this voice, as soon as I woke up, it started coming. Suddenly, as I was listening to her speak so slowly, I realized I was so relaxed, my breath was so slow, and the negative voice was gone. And I just had this realization that it really is about calming our nervous system, and that there are many ways to do this. So some people, my daughter loves to lie on the ground and ground with the earth. I think for me it's very slow music. So after the video I went and showered, but listened to this very slow meditative music. So yes, and it could, as I said, it could just be slow speaking. That's literally enough to calm the nervous system. And then as I calmed, it's like the negative voice was like really far away. Whereas the day before, I felt like, if any of you are familiar with Star Trek and the Borg, it was like, the negative voice was like the Borg, like all these voices that were just like bombarding me with the negative thoughts. But then as I relaxed, and I couldn't even hear my intuition at all that day, like zero. And now when I hear things I'm starting to really understand, differentiate between my intuitive voice and my ego voice. And then when I was relaxing, it's like the voices were like maybe so far away that they couldn't even reach me, really. You know, I was just in this like good bubble place, and it wasn't like I was super excited like that first day, but I was in a good place. And I think I'm going to see if this could be something that will work for me, because I do tend to get stuck in the negative emotion loop or the critical voice loop. So we'll see if relaxing is the key to all of it. Anyways, I guess that's it for today, and I will keep you posted on how that works out for me. But I am hopeful. Fingers crossed. Thank you for listening, and if you have your own experience about how to connect to the intuition, how to let go of negative voices, critical, judgmental voices, please comment below. I'm sure, aside from myself, other people will want to read your comments. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.